Yeah, that's awkward, isn't it? It's the uncomfortable silence. It can feel like a crater, an eternity. A big, huge hole has opened up between you and your partner. We've all been there with these uncomfortable, awkward pauses that really demonstrate unspoken tension. Well, today, we're going to tackle this elephant in the room and learn how to bridge the silence and turn it into an opportunity for deeper connection. Let's get into it right now. It's another amazing week, another phenomenal episode here at the Home to Haven podcast. Welcome. Thank you so much for downloading, for tuning in and clicking on the thumbnail on YouTube. However you're watching or listening on any of the podcast platforms, we welcome you. It's so great to hang out with you. We are the Turners, and this is your home. It is for faith-filled content that helps you communicate in your relationship. So grab a cup of coffee, some tea, water, soda, whatever it is, and let's have an amazing conversation. If you get anything from the episode, we see you listening and watching. All we ask in return, give us that little thumbs, even subscribe so you don't miss future episodes. And of course, if you're listening, we ask for a rating. It's going to tell that algorithm to push it out to more people that, hey, people like this.
That's right.
So thank you so much in advance, and we appreciate you spending part of your day with us.
That's right. That's right.
How you doing?
I'm good. And you look comfy and cozy.
What was
tonight.
that look for?
I'm just, hanging out with you. I see you got your graphic tee.
There's something wrong with my tee?
There's,
Shirt?
you just, casual, keeping it chill tonight. I see, which I like, but you're typically
Preppy.
the more fashion type person of the relationship.
I guess.
Yes.
Now it's kind of turned because I'm kind of, I don't know if I'm getting, I don't want to say older, just.
Okay. You don't care as much?
I guess, like just
usually, you're the one
and
that's
slides now.
You're the one that your slides, right? You're the one that's typically, into the clothes and, how we look. But
it's like
you're just
whatever.
rocking the sweats and the T-shirts.
Just
And
rocking out and
you mentioned your slides.
yeah.
You're wearing them with socks these days.
What?
He had socks on with his slides the other day. So I was like,
Well, that
what's
was
going
because
on with
I
that
was
look?
hoping
Did you
that-
forget or what?
No. That's
Yeah. No, I really thought you forgot.
I know, but I was saying I did it on purpose, which I don't know if it's worse.
Yeah.
But it's like I didn't know how far we had to walk.
Right.
And so I felt the socks would offer me more support.
Okay.
Because if you're just barefoot, they kind of slip.
Yeah. And I think you tried it without the socks,
And I was
right?
like, I
And you
don't
were
like
like, I don't like it.
So I don't know if that
But
means.
I'm like, they're sandals. You're not really typically supposed to wear socks with sandals.
they're slides.
They're slides, which is a type of sandal.
Well, let's ask you guys. Are slides sandals? Let us know.
Yes, that's not a question, but yes.
Well,
But yeah,
there we
you're
go.
casual, chill tonight.
yes.
I like it. Getting
Well,
comfortable.
thank you. Are you sure? Do you like
No,
it?
I love. I don't like being fancy. So I'm down with the graphic tee and sweats and hat. At least you're coordinated. I mean, they do match, so I like that.
I will do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Keep it good.
Well, let's talk about silence.
We're going to talk about silence today. We're going to talk about those uncomfortable or awkward silences that I think every relationship is going to experience at some point. You think,
There definitely is going to happen. I'm going to show you, so stick around, where there is an opportunity where silence is not awkward. So I'm going to show you that.
okay.
But
I love silence.
But typically, yes, the awkward silence comes when something's been said that's rubbed someone the wrong way. They don't know how to respond.
Yep.
There's not a great connection. I've been on a lot of virtual meetings now. I'm in meetings all day almost, and it's always awkward at the beginning.
Okay.
And especially when it's like time to end the call, like no one really knows what to do.
How to
It's
sign
like,
off, yeah.
And it's just so weird.
Okay.
And again, very awkward.
Yeah.
And it's awkward because no one knows what to do. Mm-hmm. No one really wants to take the lead.
Right.
No one wants to be the first one to bounce the meeting because you
I'm out.
I'm out. Right. So, in relationships,
Yep.
we're still seeing tendencies from that of, no one really knowing what to do or what to say.
Yeah. And I had 3 kind of main types scenario or situations where those awkward silences would be like more prevalent. Right.
Okay.
So you mentioned one and where that disconnect is, right? So this one is really the after argument silence. So when you have a disagreement, you're not seeing eye to eye with your partner, you have a different view than I have, or something's not, jiving well. Both partners can sometimes just retreat into that silence. And it's kind of, a little bit like we don't want to look at each other straight in the eye. We don't want to keep the conversation going. So there's a little bit of like standstill, I guess you would say. So there's that kind of silence.
I've definitely seen one person kind of retreat more than the other.
Okay.
One. And there's that silent treatment of during the argument of just kind of either out of retaliation or you've been beat so much into a corner, you're now gone onto the defensive and you're not going to be as forthcoming. Or
you're like, I'm kind of done with this conversation.
Absolutely.
I don't really want to say anything else. So you have that awkward silence there.
100%.
There's going to be silence in relationships where one partner is just doing their own thing and the other partner is doing their own thing, right? So we call this the daily grind silence. So couples are going through their daily routines. They're not engaging in any meaningful conversation. They're kind of like parallel. As a teacher, we talked about parallel play a lot. So like one child's doing something, the other child's doing something, but they're not engaging together, right? So they have that silence in that situation as well.
I can see that a whole lot.
Okay.
Yep.
And then the third one is really when there's an uncomfortable topic. So maybe someone brings something up that the other one's really uncomfortable with, or it's kind of a triggering topic. And so they are trying to maybe avoid that conversation, whether it be about finances or intimacy or,
100%.
Plans that they have for the future. And so they might have that awkward, pause in the conversation there.
Again, is this a bad thing?
I wouldn't say it's a bad thing, right? It's going to happen. So what we need to figure out and know what to do is how to keep the conversation going or how to still communicate well with your partner through those times. So it's not that silence is terrible and we want to avoid it at all costs, right? But we do need to know how to navigate it and not let it create, like you mentioned in the beginning, that crater in between and start building up a wall between partners.
Yeah, I think the whole point of what we're trying to get to is understanding when someone isn't talking and recognizing how do I break through?
Yeah.
Whether it's something that's been said that should not have been said, whether, as you said, we're going through our day and we're not communicating with one another, so there's a parallel silence.
Yeah.
Or, again, as the last one, you've hit a topic, and I've done this where I brought something up and I didn't get an immediate response. There's this long pause.
Yeah, for sure.
And so, okay, what are the next steps? How do I break through that ice? And let's get into that.
Yeah, so we're going to walk through some actionable steps, things that you can put into place as soon as one of these pops up in your relationship. And so the first one is to really initiate what we call a check-in conversation. So after something has happened where you're kind of at odds with each other, you can come back in and check in with this person. I know you've asked me personally to do this to you. You've told me like, hey, this will help. Like if you come back to me and say, hey, I know things are still not quite right. Is there anything I can do or anything that we need to talk through? Kind of bring that back up to you instead of just walking around pretending like everything's fine.
Yeah. So in that scenario, what's happened is whenever there's been a miscommunication or a misunderstanding between the two of us, Jennifer will I don't know the word I'm trying to say. Tentatively?
Like just continue on or like?
No, it's not the word. I can't say the word. Genuinely, not genuinely. What's the word?
Keep going. I'll help you out. Keep going.
Typically. There we go. Goodness gracious. When there's been a misunderstanding or a miscommunication, Jennifer will typically retreat. She'll go into the shell, and there's silence. I'm not getting anything.
Yeah.
And so I take that as she doesn't care. And so what I hear, we've had topics around this before, and my filter is she doesn't care, she doesn't love you, she doesn't respect you. And it can be an hour, 2, 3, 4 hours, and there's nothing. And so I'm just like, this girl really will not say nothing to me and go around acting like everything's okay. And so I'm like, hey, you may come in and be like, what's for dinner? And I guess that's how girls are, because you're just like, wait a minute, we haven't dealt with, right. We haven't dealt with the elephant in the room. And so, hey, let's address that. Come back and ask me and talk about that before we just act around like everything's normal.
Yeah. And so it's been helpful for you to tell me later on, like, hey, that would help in the situation, or this is what I need in those situations. And hopefully it's helped when I've told you, kind of what I'm thinking internally. Like, I'm definitely not trying to disrespect you, or, I'm just trying to process and make things better. And I just don't know how to do that in that case. And so talking through that with your partner and your specific, ways that you process things and deal with things is really important too.
All right.
And then another great actionable step that you can do is really actually schedule time in your day or throughout your week where, hey, we're going to sit down, just the two of us. We're going to have some connection time, even if it's just 10 minutes. But just remember to set aside that time intentionally so that okay, I will have that opportunity to talk to my spouse. I can get prepared for it, and we can actually have an important conversation if need be in that time.
And stick to it. Great thing, right? So if you got that scheduled time to talk, you gotta hit it. And if there's been a disagreement, or hey.
You got to push through it, right?
Got to push through it and come together and talk. So I like it.
Yeah, you got to be accountable to each other. Even if it's uncomfortable, we are pushing ourselves to make our relationship better. And so we need to take those steps. Another actionable step kind of goes along the same vein, but it's to start small. So if you're getting ready to talk about something that's really important, or something that might be a harder conversation that might have those silent pauses, you can kind of start with a smaller question. So, hey, I'd like to talk about our budget. Is there a time when you have available that we can sit down and just really focus on that one thing, instead of just coming out of the gate with,
sure,
a huge question when they're in the middle of doing something else. So really start small and build up to those, higher level conversations that you need to have with your spouse.
Okay.
And we'll talk a little bit more about some practical strategies that we can actually do to bridge the silence. So some more specific examples is to use questions. So we talk about this a lot because we need to communicate with our spouse well, and we need to ask those open-ended questions. So throughout our day, we're not just asking, what do you want for dinner, right? So you mentioned that, but really
get open-ended. Sort of.
Well, I mean, superficial, I guess, questions.
Okay.
So
for those of you who don't know, an open-ended question means it's not yes or no.
Okay.
So one of the things, and even I can share here, is for sales, you want to ask a question, three questions deep. So for instance, I'm trying to think of anything that someone gives you, you ask 3 more questions. So for instance, if you were to say, I don't know, give me something. What's a pain point? I don't know. I don't like the sandals, right?
Okay.
Okay. So tell me about what specifically, or what was it that kind of made you question about me wearing the socks and sandals?
It was just not fashionable.
What to you is fashionable?
I would probably prefer either sandals without socks or socks with like tied up shoes.
Okay. And when you saw me in the sandals with the socks, how did that make you feel?
I just thought it was kind of funny, but I just didn't want you to be embarrassed, like being out in public wearing that. So I wanted to address it with you.
Were you concerned for me, or were you concerned for yourself?
I was concerned for you. I really don't care.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So that's a kind of silly, spur of the moment example. but I asked 3 or maybe 4 questions you're trying to drill down, because typically when a person gives you a response or an objection, it's not really the objection.
Okay.
Or an objection really is basically more so a lack of information.
Okay.
And so you want to ask 3 questions down to drill down to, okay, what's really the issue?
So you have to dig a little bit deeper.
100%.
Right. And so
really finding out, again, it's not judging white. No, it's really out of concern, or really out of, again, we talk about really listening to understand. Why is this? Tell me more about that. Explain that more to me.
Yeah.
All right. So that there isn't that awkward pause, or if there is a pause, I'll get into that before we finish and wrap up here shortly.
Okay.
That you're able to find resolution.
Right. So that's a great example of how to really work through conflict with your questions, right? And we can also use those conversations and those deeper questions, which I was talking about, get a little bit deeper than the surface level, so that you have those connection points, and it's something that you are practicing, every week with your spouse. And so it just becomes more natural, and you become more connected with how you're communicating.
Yeah. So I wanted to kind of summarize. We talked about having the after argument silence. We talked about the daily grind silence. We talked about the uncomfortable silence. And then some of the strategies were to have open-ended questions, to offer appreciation and support, to share memories. One thing we had listed was also a physical touch. I love that if there is silence, to have a hand on the shoulder, hand on the hand, to provide comfort, if you're able to do that physically in person to person, just to have that reassurance that I'm here with you and we're going to work through this together. I love that. And the final thing was also to pray together, right? Obviously, when there's tension in the room, just take a step back in silence and pause and take authority over the atmosphere and invite the presence of God is definitely a key strategy. Before we wrap up, I want to say how there's obviously silence isn't always something's wrong.
Okay.
So I forgot where we were. I think we were coming back from, we had just landed, and we were probably not talking for 30 minutes of the drive, and everything was fine. Just because there's silence doesn't mean something's wrong.
Yeah, for sure.
The Bible says in Psalms 65 and verse 1, silence is praise to you, God. And so David kind of equated silence to being a form of praise. And so it's really important that you do pause and you offer silence, especially when your partner is talking. That's when you want to be silent and you want to be listening to understand,
right,
so that you don't misinterpret the message. Because what I see a lot of times is you will say something, or one person will say something, and they'll say, okay, so you're trying, what you're saying is, for instance, you might say, we had an issue last week. Oh, so you called me a bad husband.
Right.
Then those words never came out of your mouth.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But because I'm not listening, I'm misinterpreting what you are trying to communicate. And so it's important that we are silent and that we truly turn our minds off when our partner is communicating and allow them to express themselves and truly get understanding.
Yeah, because that's what it's all about. If you're just communicating with what you want to say, or to get your point across, or to think about what you're going to say, you're not truly listening and figuring out what they are saying, what they need, what they want. So absolutely, silence can definitely be a tool, especially in those conversations that are deeper and those conversations where you really need to learn about your spouse. So that's a great observation, that silence can also be used, as a great tool in your communication.
Absolutely love it. Hope you got something from that conversation. If you did, give us a like and a thumbs up. We've got some great resources that are in the description and in the show notes. One of them happens to be a short video that we did of how to rekindle the spark, how to reignite the flame. And that's more so kind of talking about your emotional connection and more so your conversation. We'll call it conversational intimacy.
Yeah.
And it's a great way for you to look through, even download it and have a quick 30-minute quick webinar on how to rekindle that flame and re-bridge the gap.
That's right. And that's a freebie, right? So they can grab
100%
that today,
free.
Get that done, and start implementing that in your relationship to really see a positive change.
Absolutely. So just takes a little bit step further. And we greatly appreciate you and you're coming alongside of us and listening and for watching. Thank you so much. We'll see you again for next week for another incredible topic. And remember, wisdom builds the house.
Did you get anything from today's topic? Do you want to build your home into a haven and have a peaceful atmosphere? Then take the first step and download your home prayer guide absolutely free. You'll find scriptures and prayers that pertain to the most common areas of your home life, from communication to finances, along with explanations of each topic. You'll have everything you need to speak the promise and not the problem. And did we mention it's free? Look for and click the link in the description. Our mission is to assist couples in their relationship communication so that they can build a haven of peace and love. Friend, you can have a fulfilling relationship, and we hope today's topic provided tools that will help you experience the fullness of a faith-centered relationship. So connect with us on social and send a message. Find us at Oak Haven Company on all social media platforms. We also have additional resources available to assist you on your journey. So visit oakhavencompany.com today and discover even more tools for success in your relationship communication. Again, thank you for listening. And remember, wisdom builds the house.